Hello everybody, I am Widu and today I am breaking down the project of Rose Quartz so you don't have to. Before we begin, let me just do a really quick plug. If you love learning cosplay crafting with me, visit my website at akwidu.com and grab one of my books from the store. There's also a free archive of all the tutorials I've made on social media for you to look through, and a gallery full of pretty pictures as well. Also, please consider becoming a supporter on Patreon, where for any amount that you choose to pledge, you'll access all of my YouTube videos 30 days early. Plus, you'll automatically get a tutorial booklet and pattern of each part of a cosplay that gets complete. Thank you so much for letting me plug. I hope you enjoyed the video. So, welcome back to my cosplay workshop, everybody, for another episode of Widu Breaks Down Cosplay Designs so you don't have to. For those who are new here, this is the series where I use my experience as a cosplay competitor and a judge to break down some of the projects that you have shown me that you guys want to make, and I will try to go from head to toe and identify the easy parts, the difficult parts, and the pitfalls of the costume and go through my thought process of how I would personally tackle the project if I was making it. At the end of the video, I will give the project a difficulty rating, so you or any other cosplayer who wants to tackle the project knows exactly what they are signing up for. So without further ado, let's get analyzing. So today we are going to be looking at Rose Quartz from Steven Universe, and this was a request in the comments section from Colette, which reminds me to remind you that this series is completely powered by your request. So if you have a project that you would like me to look at next, please do leave a request in the comments section and I will queue it up for you. Okay, so first things first, I need my thinking glasses and my doodle pad. Behold, more fine art that I have drawn for you guys to explain this project. I have started off with the very basic and broke down the design into 4 components. 1, her giant ass hair. 2 is her shield. 3 is her sword, and number 4 is her big dress. Now I will go through each of these components one by one and explain to you how I would personally make these items. First things first, her giant ass hair. Colette, who requested this, specifically asked if we could avoid using multiple wigs. So I am going to explain to you a way that I would do it that uses 0 wigs. I tried my hardest to come up with a way to achieve this very stylized cartoon artwork effect that definitely is very anti-gravity. So here's what I came up with. First, I would get myself a baseball cap. Then, to achieve the chunky, floaty hair, I would actually make some fabric sausages and stuff them with craft stuffing, the same stuff that you would put into a soft toy, like a plushie toy. So starting off with her bangs and fringe, you would just be making some fabric crab claws that you can stitch or glue onto the front of the baseball cap. After you've done the crab claws that make up her bangs, now the main challenge would be to get the volume that is on the back of her hair. And I think you could achieve that by just making 1, 2, 3, 4 fabric pillow cloud things. So what I've drawn here is just 4 sections, and each of them would be a pouch full of plushie stuffing. You'll end up just with a sack. So in order to make sure that each section is equally as puffy to get that volume in the reference picture, you need to have a reasonably small pillow at a time. Another option here, after the second or the third pillow, here in red, you could start making some stuffed fabric sausages instead of a third or a fourth pillow to attempt to get that hair roll effect that she's got going at the bottom of her hair. So this is what it could possibly look like, but of course when you do it, you could make it look much nicer. I've literally just got a napping pillow and slapped it on top of my head, but you get the idea. So after you made all of the little pillows that you need, you can stitch them together into a giant, cloudy, flushy sausage. And then you just gotta make sure that the top one rests on top of the baseball cap flap. So this way the top pillow of the wig that gives the hair the height has a little bit of support and it's not just dragging off the top of your head and pulling you backwards. Another thing I would personally do is maybe add a little ribbon that you can tie the whole thing to your head at your chin. With a headpiece this big, there's probably not much we can do to escape the fact that there will be weight accumulated, even though we are not using multiple wigs. And this ribbon is probably going to rest right on your jawline, so you could easily conceal it with some hair rolls. Once you finish making all of your clouds, you can stitch them together by hand. A big challenge you might face with this idea is that it could look like trash from the back, and I think for the best results, you could have the bottom layers of the clouds be stitched onto the top rather than having the top and then under as you go down. So yeah, I think that would give you the best results. After that, I also noticed that she's got several hair rolls coming out of her hairdo, and for that you could make some more stuffed stubby sausages, and you could emulate the effect of having a hair roll by using glittery foam strips with wire, or you could have the same fabric sewn into strips. Another challenge that would come with this idea of, pillows on top of a baseball cap is that you have to be super careful with what fabric you choose for this. We obviously can't go for a super heavyweight fabric, or else it would defeat the purpose of not using a wig in the first place. You can't go too stretchy, or else the stuffing is going to all gather at the bottom and you'll just end up with a saggy ball sack thing. Funnily enough, this idea is very close to how I achieved my Jiraiya wig, which was also a baseball cap with a furry helmet on top to make the illusion of having voluminous hair. And theoretically, I think you can go and get some pink fur and make stuffed fur sausages and clouds, and then stitch that onto the baseball cap and then pat the fur down with hairspray to make it look like hair. But because the fabric backing of fake fur tends to get quite heavy, you could end up with quite a heavy headdress as well. But with a hairstyle that is as ginormous as this, I would do anything and choose anything over actually working with wig hair. So I guess the choice is yours. After you've built the headpiece, you can choose to hide all of the seams with some glittery foam that you can get from a news agency, or you could really lean into the stylistic cartooniness of the character and make each of your pillows in a cloud shape, stitch them together and make your cosplay really cartoony. That bit is completely up to your tastes. Okay, next let's talk about the shield. It's just a circle with two little anchors for an arm strap for your arm to go through. You've got some options in terms of materials. If you look really close at the reference material, you will see that the shield and also the sword is kind of see-through, a little bit transparent. So you could go and get a sheet of acrylic or Perspex and use model paints, transparent model paints to color it. Or you could get the illusion of the transparency by using foam and some foil fabrics. So instead of having it transparent, you're having it reflective. After the circle for the base of the shield is done, the rest is super easy. It's just the thorny rose details that goes onto the top of the shield. I personally just use some 2mm EVA foam. It is the perfect thickness for fine, sharp details like this. Anything thicker, you would get something that is a little bit too chunky for this kind of design, and anything thinner, it's just going to be a little bit too fragile. Shield was easy. Next, sword. So the sword and the shield are quite similar in the sense that they are both implied to be transparent. So if you want to go down that transparent path, you could go for another sheet of Perspex, or you could go down the reflective path with the EVA foam. If you do choose to go with the EVA foam, you might need to insert a wire or a stick in between two layers of foam so that it doesn't flop everywhere for you. I think I'll make the handle and the blade as one piece, so just one flat piece of acrylic or foam. Then decorate the blade stopper here, so that's where it looks like it's got rose petals. It's super pretty. So that would be permanent. This is what the handguard would look like if it was laid flat. This right here is the hole that the blade would shove through, and then you just curve this bit around to the end of the handle. I think here it would be a good idea to have the handguard as a solid piece that is removable from the blade. So you would make this blade hole a little bit loose, and then you would make the bottom nice and thick so you can put a screw in to secure the handguard. This way, if you ever travel with this cosplay, you can flat pack the blade and store the handguard somewhere else with lots of bubble wrap. So it would be something like this. The blade and the handle is all one piece. And then at the handle part, you can add a couple of extra layers to make it a comfy grip. Then you can shove the handguard inside and screw it on. Unscrew it when you need to travel. Last but not least, her giant dress. In the reference picture, I know there is no seam line at the waist, but I think it would be a good idea to add one and then disguise it later if you really are bothered by it. That way you can make a fitted bodice and a cone shape for the bottom half of the dress. These two bits would be sewn together in one piece, and then underneath the dress I would suggest having a circle skirt to get the cone shape. The skirt panel needs to make a cone, so be careful not to make a full circle skirt here, because another thing that this art doesn't have is frills or gathers. For a hoop skirt, you could either go and buy one or you could make your own. If you can be bothered making your own hoop skirt, I do highly recommend it. They are quite fun and they don't really absolutely have to be the proper materials either. I have seen people make perfect hoop skirts with hula hoops and ribbons. You could just have a big hula hoop, medium hula hoop, and a smaller hula hoop, and then a waistband, and then just tie them together with ribbons and you will have a hoop skirt. It doesn't have to be super proper. It's pretty much just there to make sure all of the fabric that is in your skirt sit comfortably and nicely out into a cone shape rather than just flop sadly down to your ankles. Overall, I think rose quartz is actually very deceptively difficult. You not only have to defy gravity for your hair, you also have to make some props, a shield and a sword, and also a giant cupcake ball gown. Putting the giant hair aside, making a very satisfying cupcake-shaped ball gown is a gravity-defying feat in itself, because fabric doesn't come holding its own structural integrity. And I think it's important to point out that there is a very common misconception in the cosplay community that seems to think making a big dress is just making a big dress, when in reality it is actually a feat of engineering. It is so much harder to get fabric to behave the way you want than to get foam to behave the way you want, because foam comes holding its own structural integrity and fabric really doesn't. Having said all that, it is time to give this project a difficulty rating, and I think I will give Rose Quartz from Steven Universe a solid B+, meaning almost everybody will have a hard time with this costume, whether they're a beginner or an advanced cosplayer. One of the reasons for this difficulty rating is because of the all-rounded nature of this project. You have to make a ginormous anti-gravity wig, you have to be a prop maker for the shields and the swords. It is a transparent prop, and anything transparent is automatically a little bit harder than usual. And you have to be a good seamstress to make a satisfying cupcake ball gown. Another reason for this difficulty is the very simplistic but very stylized cartoon art style that this reference picture comes in, which means the design of the character was never really rooted closely to reality, and that just makes it so much harder to recreate in real life. So there you have it, I broke down Rose Quartz from Steven Universe's design for cosplay, so you don't have to. This episode was made possible by your amazing support on Patreon and Twitch, including everybody on my right pledging more than $5, and special thanks to everybody on my left: Jonathan, Chad, Sylvia, Hello Lello, Anna Messa, Just Believe Cosplay, April, Natalie, and Mary Deignan, everybody who has pledged 15 and above. Thank you so much for your love and support. I will see you in a future episode very soon. In the meantime, stay crafty.